Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa Siegel and I'm a professor of migration studies. Today on the channel we're going to talk about why people migrate and how they decide where to go. So first of all, migration is nothing new. Migration has been happening since the beginning of time. And it's not a phenomenon that we've just all of a sudden discovered nowadays, but something that's been going on for most of history. There are many reasons and motivations why people migrate. One dichotomy that we often talk about is forced versus voluntary migration. However, we know that there are often multiple reasons why people migrate, and then often these are overlapping. So there is not an easy and strict dichotomy between forced migration and voluntary migration. There are multiple reasons why someone might migrate. These are just a few that are some of the most common ones. So definitely from a more forced perspective, we can think of things like conflict, violence, war, persecution, environmental factors. But there are many other factors also, or reasons why people migrate. It might be things like access to services, for family reasons. That could be both family reunification and family formation. Also, education or student migrants are a large portion also of migrants that we see today. Additionally, you might have retirement migration, so people that decide to move upon retirement, maybe to a country that is a bit warmer or where their money goes further. And of course, we have migration for jobs or employment, and this can be of a range of different kinds of people. So this is not only of poor people moving around the world in search of jobs, but also, for instance, of the highly skilled. So migration for jobs or for work is one of the largest reasons why people move, and this also covers a large gamut of different types of people. Additionally, you might have we also have something called lifestyle migration. And that's often young people who want to move just to experience a different country, a different culture, a different lifestyle. And of course, in general, people often want to migrate for better opportunities. And that could be already from a good situation to an even better situation, or that could be from a less good situation to a better situation. Now, I already told you that there are often multiple reasons why people migrate, and these are also often overlapping. So if we take person one, for example, you might have someone who initially migrated for educational purposes or as a student migrant, perhaps for university education. But at the same time, maybe they've chosen a specific country or decided to migrate because they think that that education is also going to give them better opportunities, and perhaps also studying in a specific country will give them better access to the labor market in that country. In some countries like the United States or like the Netherlands, for instance, if you've studied in that country, you have easier access to another type of visa after you've studied in that country, and it may be easier to work. Additionally, if we look at a completely different type of case study, maybe someone who is, for instance, migrated because of war. You could think of Syrians in this case. So maybe someone feels like they need to migrate because of war, but also, and that could be, of course, specifically because of security, but at the same time, because war has happened in the country, a lot of the facilities, a lot of the services have also been destroyed. That might mean also that it's difficult to get decent health care and education, so that these people not only want to move because of the direct concerns about security, but also because all of the infrastructure has been destroyed, and they're looking for their children and their families to have better access to health and education. Additionally, they may already have some family members abroad, for instance in Germany, so they may want to also reunify with those family members and also to also be with those family members. So in already a case of maybe a Syrian who is definitely forced to migrate, you can see that there are multiple reasons and multiple reasons why this person might want to migrate in the first place, not only security, but infrastructure, and also wanting to be close to family. Now, how do people decide where they want to go? So this is also a bit more complex, and there are multiple factors that often go into someone deciding where they're going to want to go. These are just a few of these examples. Could be, for instance, where someone might already have relatives or family members or networks in another country. They may actually want to go to a place where they already know they would have some kind of support system. Additionally, the cost of migration can also really play into this. So think about not only the cost of, for instance, a plane ticket or how much someone might have to pay a smuggler, but you can think of things like the costs of visas or whether or not someone needs a passport to be able to go where they're going to go. There are many other costs associated with migration than just, for instance, a plane ticket or a train ticket. So people take that into account when also deciding where they're going to go. Countries that might give them easier access and are maybe cheaper to enter might be countries that people are more willing to go to. You can also think about language. So there are many different languages spoken around the world, and it may be easier for someone to migrate to a country where they already know the language or the languages are closer. So for example, you can think of Romanians or Moldovans who speak Romanian, and this is a Latin language that is actually quite close to Italian. So when Moldovans or Romanians move to Italy, it is relatively easier for them to understand Italian and start speaking Italian even quicker. You might also think about the fact that so many people move to English-speaking countries, because in many countries the second language that people learn is English, so that they will often think that it's going to be easier for them to integrate in society and especially on the labor market in an English-speaking country. So language is again one of those things that can be taken into account. If we look here at this diagram that I'm showing you, that you can think here about a multitude of reasons for people to both move to one country and also not move to a country. So in this diagram I'm showing you here, you can see that both in countries of origin, or here called source countries, and countries of destination, we have both what are called push and pull factors. But at the same time, you could think of both stay and stay away factors. So factors that might, what we say, push someone to migrate are things like famine or poverty, low wages, unemployment, overpopulation, high taxes, discrimination, religious persecution, civil war, violence and crime, perhaps forced military service, or social immobility. So those are some reasons why someone might want to move. Now, what are pull factors from the destination country side? So what are those things that are attractive that would make someone want to come to a specific country? These could be things like high wages, employment, property rights, personal freedoms, economic freedom, law and order, peace, religious freedom, educational opportunity, social mobility, low taxes, and family reunion. Now, of course, I'm just giving you a kind of laundry list of the reasons why people would want to migrate, or what would push them from one country and also pull them into another country, but of course this is not an exhaustive list. Now, additionally, you might have factors that are what we call stay factors, so reasons why someone would not want to leave their country. These are things like family ties, friendship ties, social status, cultural familiarity, employment, property, familiarity with the country, and certainty, and perhaps political privileges. Now, on the other side, there are things that we would call stay away factors, or reasons why someone would not want to migrate, at least to a specific country. And these are things like language barriers, cultural barriers, discrimination, low social status, unemployment or low wages in that country, lack of political rights, and unfamiliarity with the culture, perhaps the lack of certainty, or there also could be war or crime in that country that someone will maybe think of going to. So those are stay away factors. Again, not an exhaustive list, just some of the most typical reasons why someone might want to stay away from a country. Now, in between that, we have also the costs of moving. And in general, at least the perceived benefits of migration have to outweigh at least the perceived costs of migration for someone to move. And the costs could be things like transportation costs, dangers in the voyage, the time of travel, or also the income lost during the move. Now, additionally, you can actually have formal exit barriers, so formal barriers to leaving the country, as well as formal barriers to entering a new country that are also often taken into account by migrants when making a decision to move. So exit barriers could be things like exit visas or exit taxes that some countries may impose on their citizens. Sometimes there's just a complete prohibition of moving. You can think of this in a country like North Korea. Or things like imprisonment. If someone is already in prison, it's going to be practically impossible for them to be able to leave the country. And perhaps also penalties on family members if someone migrates. Now on the other side, perhaps what you're more familiar with are entry barriers. These could be things like entry visa requirements, perhaps maybe entry quotas or prohibition, or specifically fines if people also enter the country. So we know that there are many more perhaps formal barriers to entry than there are formal barriers to exit. And those are just a few reasons why we see people migrating and how they perhaps also make decisions on where they're going to go. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and check out the other videos also.